back, guys. Hope you have a great break. And next we will have a panel discussion that's going to be about epic success stories in game marketing. And I will let the lady and gentleman introduce themselves, so please join me welcoming them. Yours.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today. My name is Joanna Keller and I'm the host of this panel. I'm really looking forward to our discussion. I specialize in marketing about PC and consoles and indie games, so really looking forward to learning the insights my guests have today. And yeah, I think we could start with a small intro, essentially talking, introducing yourselves, talking what you currently do, and maybe sharing what's the most exciting thing in marketing for you.
Sure, I can start. Does it work? Yeah. So my name is Vova. I work for Gameloft as a PMM on Asphalt Legends Unite, which is a cross-platform racing game. For me, the most exciting in marketing is finding small hooks that help you to build communication and then kind of win hearts.
Hi, I'm Robert. I'm head of playable ads at BoomBit, which is quite an uncommon role, and it's also related to what I see exciting right now in mobile advertising, playable ads. During last 2 years, we scaled the team from 5 people to 25, and I'm on the creative side here for mobile.
Hi everyone, my name is Matej. I've been in the industry for like 8 years. I've been working for Pixel Federation. I take care of the ASO and the growth partnerships as well. And the one thing I like about it is from the ASO perspective, like it's so unpredictable. Like I don't even know where it's going to take me the next day. So it's always fun.
Amazing, very happy to have you guys here. We had another speaker, unfortunately, due to another conference, he couldn't make it, but hopefully, maybe next time we're going to have a panel with him as well. So one of the topics we actually talked about in the break before the panel was ASO, which was really exciting for the mobile industry, and for me personally, because it's so different from what we do in consoles and PC. We do obviously have Steam, for example, and optimize that. But a lot of times, I think it's the magic of the ASO, and I think you, Matej, shared some of the wins, some of the practices. So could you start and talk us?
Yeah, sure. We were discussing like what was the most epic win from the ASO perspective. Well, for Pixel, we do have a transportation games, and my internal victory was that we managed to finally find like another train that was outperforming the ones that we've been using for years. And trust me, when you're looking at that one particular train for ages, it just you get full of it. So it was like a big win for me. We finally managed to find something else that was working. And then again, we are currently still in the process of how we approach ASO is that we are running experiments non-stop. So we are still looking for some better performing variant. However, currently, well, it's like a never-ending battle. So it's always interesting. So that was one of my success case, I guess.
I think that's fascinating with ASO, right? It's like iterating, finding the perfect pattern. But one of the curious things I think you shared was about the creatives, and it's going to feed into our second point from Robert about the playable ads. But the frustration I think you shared was the creatives, like how unpredictable they are. If you could share that, because I think it was super curious.
Yeah. So the pain point was that like when I was talking, like I'm never going to know like what is going to take me the next day. What I meant by that is that even when we produce some high-end creatives and upload them and you see the result, it's just not working, like they're performing terrible. And while still looking at the picture, it's like a very, very polished creative. But then when we try some AI-generated images, just like put it in there and we'll see how it's going to work, it was performing very well. So that is the unpredictability I was talking about when it comes to ASO. And the frustration level is very high when you have people working on one creative, and they dedicated out on 1-2 days to create it and make it look very good, and then comes the AI and it just pops it off right away.
Yeah. Exactly, and I think that's one of the dangers I think creatives see as well. That's going to be, people don't see the difference, or they don't mind the difference at all, especially in the shop. And Robert, what is it about playable ads? Because I think it's a divisive topic, especially for people who are not super uber mobile game fans, for example, they play different titles, what does this world look like for you? Like, what are the epic wins in making a playable ad that actually, is informative? It shows what the game is. It's not some of the, bad villains, I guess, in marketing. Whenever somebody mentions that, okay, the ad looks exactly the opposite of what the gameplay actually is. It brings the people in, but then it's not the game I want to play based on the ads. Like, what does it look like for you in your role?
Yeah, I would say especially the whole last year was pretty hot in terms of playable ads, and we can see it even during conferences organized by biggest SDK networks. When this year they were saying that they reported like a significant growth, like by 61% in spend on playable ads in comparison to the previous year, and also a significant increase in the usage of so-called standalone playable ads, because like playable ads can work together with video, so we first see the video and then playable ad as an interactive end card, or just play the playable ad itself. So during the last year, we've seen also internally in BoomBit like significant growth and importance of playable ads. And I personally really like it because of the authenticity. So we are now seeing that our, from the last couple of months, like biggest successes, and some of them were like really significant to us in terms of our biggest mid-core titles. The root of the success was that we've made playable ads that were like one-to-one to original gameplay with the same UIs, the same feeling. Like one of our game is called Darts Club, and people play their darts. And we've made initially we've made a very short ad for this game, playable ad, where you were like throwing dart 3 times, and that was it. Then you were redirected to the store. And after that, we were iterating over and over, and we've ended up with a creative which you can play for like more than 10 minutes. You're playing against bot, you have full gameplay experience, it's full PvP, and yeah, we actually had their like ad players playing the ad for 10 minutes. And this ad helped us not only scale the spend in our UA, but we've also seen significant growth in retention. Like day 1 retention was up by 30% in some networks, and it was even more visible in day 14. So in this case, authentic gameplay really paid off, and yeah, I'm really happy of this trend because it's even more enjoyable for viewers, right? So they are playing one game, they see ad, and they can also enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think it's very, logical. Actually,
Yeah.
showing the same gameplay. But why would you say mobile games are still doing the sort of misleading ad? If, for example, in your case, it shows that people do spend, the dwell time is so much better. They do actually, stay for 10 minutes. I think for an ad, this is a great, KPI. Why is it still such a problem that, for example, on YouTube they make compilations on the, games and ads back to back? Like, what do they look like? Why is it still such a spread out, thing that mobile companies believe are working? The data shows what it does.
Because they also work, but if it would be that simple, then we will be making like authentic ads for all games. We've changed our approach, so we are starting with authentic playable ads and seeing what they will bring us. But of course, it depends on the game. I would say, in case of that Darts Club game, the part of the success was that the game itself had a very enjoyable core mechanic, easy to understand from the very beginning. Not every game has it, or it's more complicated, then it's more difficult to show it, right? So then you need to find another way.
Robert, key question. When you will implement the payments into the ads so I can not even install the game, just continue out there? Is it coming?
Not yet, but maybe.
I'm stealing an idea.
But actually, I think that's a really interesting problem as well. Like, how do you make sure that people actually convert into playing the game if the ad is so fun? And they do spend that 10 minutes within the ad instead of downloading and playing the game. So,
Like we do usual data tracking, and we follow them. We track every installs, and we see from where they are coming.
okay, so it doesn't like get in the way of business, so to say. Because for example, for me on PC console, you usually do have either free to play, where you immediately you have the skins, you have all the monetization implemented that way, or you have to pay to play, right? But in case of making such a playable ad, is that not impacting you at all? Like, is it good they spend so much time, or is it on the fence actually? Because it's super curious to me. It's like just a different perspective. Because the ads, for example, on the games that I've worked on, they were just snippets from the trailer, CGI. It was not gameplay fully, because that was made for the trailers we promote on YouTube, for example. So is it not a problem at all then?
Still, for such ads like I've mentioned, for Darts Club, the conversion to shop click was from the ad to the store was pretty low. Like it was 12-13%. So not many users in comparison to probably most of the let's say a little bit more fake advertising, but still we were getting much more let's say better users in terms of ROI, and thanks to this we were able to scale campaigns. So long playable ad allowed us to find our target audience and better users for us.
Yeah, so the quality improved over time. So I think that's one of the best finds actually, right? That if you do it correctly, you get better players and more playable base. What does it look like for a title in your case that you're available on different platforms altogether? What does it impact in terms of creative? Is it very different for, do you make campaigns, for example, that are centered on each platform? Do you use creatives all over? What does it look like?
Yeah, sure. So we're cross-platform quite recently, since July. So we haven't changed a lot the in-game progression, which we know that we will do, because this is what was also uncovered in this case of Epic versus Apple, on how users are moving from the platform to the platform, and how you can use certain platform for acquisitions when it's easier, let's say mobile, and then how you can move those users to other platforms when it's easier for you to monetize. We're still exploring these aspects. Definitely we see that since the gameplay, core gameplay remained the same, the quality of the game since 2019 was on such high levels that it looks like a PC title. We haven't had to fake anything in terms of how you play the game itself, that it wasn't such a change. But what we can see is the importance of consoles, and especially in the current mobile market. PS after release quickly became one of the main revenue drivers, and definitely adding more platforms and making the game cross-platform, despite of it being a huge technical challenge and a big investment, makes sense in the long term and drives this kind of unique experience that helps to sustain the growth for longer.
I'm really happy, the quality speaks for itself and you don't have to fake anything, because at the end of the day, I think lies always have very short legs and they can't run far.
We very often have these questions from UA team, hey, can we test this, can we test that, can we test this, can we test that? The main problem for us with the fake ads is that, yeah, sure, let's say the conversion will be, I don't know, give me a benchmark, 60%. The 40 people that won't convert, they won't convert when we will show the real gameplay. They will stick to the feeling of, oh, so this is a low quality game, I will never go to it. So the losing of the half of the audience that we could convert later on when we will work with that with other campaigns just limits the market and drives the short time growth and the goal is to sustain the product for 10 years. It's 4 or 5 years on the market, 250 million downloads, and kind of moving forward. I think if we would start with I think it's certain point we may start with fake ads. Once everyone will know what Asphalt is, and they will be like, no, I've played this game, I don't want to play it anymore. We'll try to fake that it's not the game that they played. But I think this is a story to be told in like 5 years or so.
Definitely. And I think it's closing out on this topic, Marcel, as well. You mentioned the AI creators. Has any of you actually used them in your work? And do you see, the source of, I don't know, maybe progression for it to be used more readily, or studios are actually coming back to authenticity, looking at the numbers, looking at, it is a short-term solution at the end of the day.
I'd say we can't really ignore it. We kind of need to go with the flow because it offers so many advantages, and our competitors will be doing it at one point. And I can see the added value for our. Well, we have like an internet tool that we develop. Basically, it's like a combination of different AI models. The best thing that I've seen happen in that model is we have a 2D game called Digger's Adventure. It's an old game, but the point is that it's 2D. When it comes to generating 3D assets in AI, it's kind of tricky. But when it comes to generating 2D assets, it's working fine. And the smart people at the company taught the model like what's the game art, and then they are able to generate NPCs like with one prompt. Like it already knows the measurement. It's even rigged then after, so it saves a lot of time and allows us to make very content-heavy game, which is the model that we have. Like we are pouring out live ops event every week. So we need those people to have that kind of experience. Like there's always something new coming in, and this helps us achieve that.
In terms of BoomBit, or have you ever used them, or have you focused on the game assets essentially?
Yeah, we definitely. You don't want to be left behind in this topic. So we experiment both with 2D asset generation training models using our game assets. Also, it helps with ASO. Like we can generate like hundreds of different icons and other things. Previously training the model using our historical assets. Like video generation is a super hot topic right now, but it's just starting. So yeah, definitely it's worth going into this.
Do you want to add anything to this topic?
Yeah, like for me, I feel that we speak so much about AI. Even on this conference, half of the panels was mentioning that, and it's like discussing whether it makes sense to use spreadsheets. And like, yes, once the Excel appeared, I'm sure there were conferences when people were gathering out those, guys from accounting, and like, are you still using papers or are you shifting to, these electronic devices? Like the revolution is happening, everyone uses it, and the important stuff is that the tool is out there, everyone has an access to it. None of the AI models are too expensive to use and to adopt considering the margins that our industry has. So definitely everyone implements it in a way and optimizes the work. For us, there are certain limitations since we are working with licensors. We can't kind of experiment how we show Lamborghini or Ferrari, but definitely in the production process, the tool is used. For me, the big question mark is that for now, it is expensive for the company that makes AI to sustain the AI in the way how they are kind of publishing it. And this is the question whether there will be more efficient models. But I think that it is also kind of a question for another conference that won't be around the games, that will be around how to make AI models cheaper and less consuming in terms of production capacity.
Definitely. I think from a marketing standpoint, I think it's very curious, for example, to train models on the backgrounds, on the assets that they are reflecting what is in the game. It's not, separate completely, that you have those very anime kind of characters and it's a shooter, for example. Or just like it stays in, within the style and within the genre of the game as well. Because I think the worst thing is that you kind of do a marketing campaign based on assets that have nothing to do with it, and then you skew the PG rating. You really kind of alienate the people who know the game already, especially if it's like longer on the market and the company just says, oh yeah, we're gonna not hire artists anymore, I'm just going to do AI stuff, and it's so out of the line and just destroys the whole marketing strategy essentially, right? What the title is for.
In terms of PR, I think yes. Like people are still they feel very touchy when the company announces that, yeah, we will use AI more and more. Everyone is like, oh, how many people are they firing? It's all because of AI. It's not because they did bad at their business cases preparation and they haven't planned their bottom line right. It's because AI disrupting the market. But I haven't seen any case yet when someone would, I don't know, send us a screenshot of an ad that they've seen and they're like, this is nothing like Asphalt looks like, you've made this with AI and I will stop playing your game because of that. Mostly crushes.
Yeah, it didn't happen to us either, but however, from the ethical point, there were a couple visual artists who left the company when the whole AI topic was a topic, like when it was still super hot, and a couple of people were like, we are not supporting this, and they left the company. Yeah, and unfortunately, it was unfortunate in the first place, and then it's not going to be a situation where we're not going to be using it. So, like, this is the world now. Just let's adapt.
Definitely. And I think coming back to the topic about lessons, you mentioned, for example, about the title, platforms. I always find it curious whether the world of games kind of interact with each other. Because at least in PCs, we talked about it a bit as well before the panel. In my case, at least in indies, a lot of the learnings are lost, unfortunately. They don't translate very well. Indie companies attend different conferences, they focus on different meetings, they focus more on the technical aspects, not much about marketing. And I wonder, how does it look for you, in your companies with your titles? Do you, for example, see campaigns that you're big fan of, and do you want to implement, for example, the same way of promoting it, or maybe interacting with the lessons? Okay, it worked well for Xbox. Let's see how does it in mobile, etc., etc. Or are the words still very separate? Because in the indie scene, at least, I very much feel so. A lot of times, big players implement a lot of lessons. You see the trends going in, filtering through, paid advertising, for example, social media being leveraged in a different way. And we kind of console PC gamers, we're still doing it organic, all the way, always. So I'm very curious about that. Have you had any lessons that you implemented? Are you curious about any titles that, for example, have not gone to your platform, or in your case, are on the platform that Asphalt is on already?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I think that making the same never kind of works when you're just copy-pasting what someone else made without reflecting on how it should be different for your product. You're never achieving the results that the challenger that actually kicked off, let's say, the trend is achieving. And end of the day, it has rather bad consequences for your title. But when we're speaking about transferring the learnings and how this works in indie versus in higher tiers games marketing, I think it is a lack of, sometimes, lack of general marketing knowledge that stops this transfer of insights. Very often those insights are not around, hey, we need to test creatives, or hey, we need to have a red button on creative because red buttons perform always well. Mari said, we just need to iterate. It is the process that you build, and marketing is a process. So I think that the case of indie games and these troubles of concentrating on organic is that you need to stick to the core of what you're doing, and you need to concentrate on your efforts on such a small number of things because you have a small team that thinking about marketing very often just hey, we'll cross the bridge once we reach, and you never cross it. But I won't be so, let's say, dramatic in terms of indies not using any of tools that are out there for big companies and big titles. I think that influencers was a great channel that recently was adopted by a lot of indie games, because indie also became kind of a genre by itself. It is not every indie game is kind of so similar to another one with roguelikes and stuff that there is just type of players who play indies and those who are not, as with every other genre. And therefore, the channels that had been used for other types of games for years are now also spreading to these fields.
And do you have any favorite examples from these like working for you, like the insights you've had? Because I think like you really struck on the nerve as well, like the indie being a category of its own as well. Have you had anything like surprising for you in the last few years that you wouldn't have thought that it's going to work as well for Asphalt or any other title we've had?
Oh, this is a different switch of a question, because the first one was like whether the indies are adopting something from big games, whether the big games adopting something from indies is a different question. I think that not so much, because it would mean that indies should make more or something different than the big games are doing, which means that people without resources would do something that people with resources don't, which kind of counterintuitive. So no, we're not doing anything that the indie titles are doing. In terms of tactical or operational steps, in terms of general strategy in finding a way how to position your game, definitely epic successes in games marketing. There were huge successes in indie games that managed to build an atmosphere or find a gimmick that helped to build the communication around and attract that audience. And this is definitely something that every type of title tries to follow, because you need to have certain hook that would help you to distinguish yourself from competitors in the genre, because everyone is a roguelike, so you need to be a roguelike that does something else.
Yes, I think that's always like the most important thing to repeat, like USPs and finding your flavor sort of, and the hook to keep on the strategy on and the messaging as well. What does it look like for you guys in terms of the things that you could implement from titles? Maybe are you gamers of like other platforms as well, or do you focus working in mobile and playing mobile? Because that's the case for PC gaming, for example, that marketers play PC games mostly, and console ones play console and PC mostly. They're not venturing into mobile, which I think is a shame, because a lot of stuff that mobile games are doing, they are forefront of many things, especially in promotion. Do you want to add anything or share any insights with these?
From my experience from the creative side, I can just agree with you that influencer marketing, this is something that works for us both for mobile and other platforms. Also campaigns including like UGC videos, so user-generated content, so people showing they are playing something, they don't have to be influencers. So this is something that worked for us.
To answer your question, yes, I do game a lot, like more than I should probably, and but I rarely go for mobile, to be honest, and it's a shame, because it's a pretty powerful device, and I would love to play a game that would actually hook me in. It's portable, so everywhere you go, you just kick it with you. But I mostly play on PC and PlayStation, to be honest, because I kind of want to enjoy my titles to look a certain way, and I'm having fun playing those. What is for mobile? I'm not saying like there are shitty games on mobile, but they're not. It's just I can't really get into it that much, to be honest. So it's like a different version of gaming. For me, it's like when I'm commuting, so I play a little, but I don't dedicate like an hour session for mobile games, to be honest. Sometimes, but rarely.
I see. Have you tried Steam Deck by any chance?
No, but I bought the thing for a mobile. Like you can make it like a like a joystick. You put your phone in it. You have the pads. Helped a lot in Call of Duty.
Can imagine.
My little words will follow up and will drag you to some mobile racing.
Amazing. I think we really shared, the good things, but I think a question that I sometimes find really curious is what is bad marketing actually about? Is this something that you immediately say, like, for example, if a marketer asks you like for friendly advice on like the corridor test, which I think most companies usually have, what do you think of this creative, what do you think of this copy? Do you see something that like immediately, no, just don't do it, please don't do it? And lessons learned from your experience, because all of you have many years under your belts, right? In the specific roles you have. So is there something that you immediately know? seeing it in a proposal, seeing it, for example, even at conferences when the indie devs are showing the first, second or third game, we immediately as a marketer saying, no, it's not going to be an epic win, there's no chance in hell for it.
Well, in terms of creatives, for example, there's the ethical issue of sexualizing everything, and that's kind of, we are never going to go down that way. There was one attempt, it didn't work out, and there was like a company-wide decision, like, let's not explore those waters ever.
Man, sexualizing trains, I can see why this is not working.
That was the case.
Wow.
Yeah, we were experiencing different channels, and there was an attempt to do that. Other than that, it's only my point of view, but I think that crypto is kind of sneaking into like the regular gaming. So there's like that might be happening, but I feel like the audience that we have, it wouldn't go well if we were to implement it into the game. So we kind of stay away from that for now. We'll see, maybe it'll change, but we kind of feel the audience might not receive it very well. So that's no go for us at the moment. But hey, next week maybe.
Exactly.
From the data perspective, to me, bad marketing is marketing that doesn't work. So from the creative team perspective, like the problems and risks are that it's easy to go for short-term wins. And we are like testing a lot of creatives, not only playables, videos and static creatives, and it's easy to focus on the initial data. So initial data can say that something works super well, even in terms of ROI, day 1, day 3, or sometimes even day 7, we meet our goals. But it especially applies to false advertising. So you can get great results in the very beginning, looking at the creatives and the results, but then after day 21, 30, and so on, you see that no, it was a mess and a bad decision. So you need to take this into account and have good predictors to avoid loss in this way.
Awesome, thank you.
For me, the main goal of marketing that it needs to bring value for consumers as well as for the company, and that one is the one that doesn't bring any value. The problem is that marketing has so many different levels and ways to look at. So starting from the levels of like tactical, operational, strategical, on everyone you can tell, yeah, this won't work just because you have certain tastes. If you see a creative, the text is too small and you want people to see text, you say that this won't work. But this is obviously not an example of like, oh, what won't work that you're expecting. So from first glance, it's really hard to understand whether something would be working or not. Of course, you have some gut feeling, but I usually try not to disencourage people, especially when meeting on the conferences. Better make friends than enemies. So yeah, I'm always rather support testing and seeing how this will work around worst case scenario. People will have learnings and knowledge and will do stuff differently next time.
Okay, I love the messaging, supporting, definitely. I think from my side, at least from my experience, I, for example, was announcing for Spark 2 11 Studios. That was my first role in games, and the game premiered recently. The learning I had is not to start too early, because then the momentum is super hard to sustain as a marketer. You have to keep on doing updates, you have to keep sharing things with people, you have to keep them engaged and keep the expectations at a certain level. I left the team a few months after announcing it, and looking at the premiere now, for example, I see that some of the fire over 3 years, it's super hard to keep it going, essentially. And sometimes you have to kind of pace yourself, pace the team as well. And I really like encouraging as well, indies. I think the way I've learned over the 3 years is that there are so many things you can turn around still, that it's not, for example, a failed launch doesn't mean a failed game all the time, because it has a life cycle. You can do discounts, you can do sales, you can do partnerships with other devs. Obviously, it's not going to be like a success that would have, Balatro, I think that's the roguelike poker game. I don't know if you've heard about it. So it's like a roguelike game, but a poker one, and it really exploded. And it was such an overnight success, and a lot of games developers really wish for that success. But I think sometimes it's good enough to have a good enough game. Like it's good enough for it to be good enough, just not maybe the bestseller that people would expect immediately. But I love the encouraging tone. I think that's super, super important, especially at conferences. I think we venture into a very curious topic as well, maybe skill sets you see in marketing, and whether there are some things that in your case you see better being in-house, part of a team, or maybe actually hiring people outside, freelancers, collaboration. And I think the user-generated content is one example that is super hard to do in-house because you focus on things you as a team know, and it's super fake. And people can tell, obviously, you're from the dev team, and just like you're too involved with the game, and it's like nobody's excited about the UI being the UI, all the colors changing, or the animation changing, etc. So do you see in your experience some things that you need, for example, as a dev team to have in-house, to have, I don't know, office chats with, to be constantly on the pulse of things, or maybe hiring someone outside, bringing a different perspective?
What we do is we, from time to time, because the UA team is like 5 people and the rest of the marketing team is mostly creatives, but for those 5 to 6 people, they've been with the company for quite some time. So what we try to achieve is invite a freelancer or like a consultant every now and then just to get like a fresh perspective, just like you said. So we are just making sure that we are not missing out on anything that is going on. I mean, those people are pretty good at what they do, but still, it never hurts to get like a second opinion for stuff. So we do that. But other than that, I think we taking care of everything internally. But this kind of perspective is needed sometimes, just to make sure we won't be stuck in a box.
Awesome, and I think you also learn, right? You learn the ins and outs of the game, and then it's super hard to onboard somebody to be on par with the team that's been maybe not doing it for ages, but doing it for a long, long time and being experts at it. So.
We do exactly like you said. So UGC, we outsource, and everything else we do internally, and it benefits us especially in cases like heavily depending on tech. So I can say it's always worth like implement tech for something internally from my experience, because then you have that flexibility. Like we did in case of playable ads, we have our own tech for it and we can adapt it to our needs, and in other cases it works in a similar way.
Yeah, I feel that this kind of in-housing and outsourcing discussion is like a never-ending story, and just, as you're breathing, it's just processes that every company goes through, but there are definitely some bigger trends, and I think that in-housing of acquisition was a trend on which gaming was at the pinnacle comparing to other industries. It slowly changes in all the industries in terms of the media buying, that media buying becomes an internal function because of the development of measurement. So it basically starts to be part of sales in all the industries, coming from FMCG, automotive, pharma. All of them are making in-house media teams, and this is something that was in gaming for ages. So UA guys who were basically in the roots of the studios created. At the same time, I think that it has its pitfalls. A lot of internalization kind of puts you in the silo, and I feel that gaming as an industry missing out on a lot of trends and technologies that are developed in other spheres. But there are always trade-offs, and somehow we believe that people who play games are kind of different beasts. Despite of knowing that the market is huge and there are kind of 2 billion gamers in the world, so like every 4th person, probably this is not a representative room, but you know what I mean. We are still thinking, oh no, we need to hire someone who knows our title and who plays our title, because otherwise this person just can't imagine how to draw an art that would convert and would attract the audiences. I think that we need to experiment with outsourcing of certain functions from time to time, because this is the only way to bring in fresh air into the room.
Yeah, super interesting insight. I think in Poland it's changing a lot because, for example, in big studios like CD Projekt or even 11-bit after I left, there are a lot of professionals coming in from agencies, and you can see the skills are improving so much because they are operating a different level of planning. For example, they implement a lot of words that seem scary to people who've only done games, and for me it's been a bit of a thrill to see how gaming actually adopts these people who, you know, are gamers, are interested in the industry, and they're very motivating. They have really calm lines, for example, under their belts. They have awards for really groundbreaking stuff, and they get into gaming and they stay for a long time and very successful. So I think what you touched upon as well, data, feeds into my next question because we're 20 minutes till the end, so I'd like to have 2 more questions and maybe leave some time for questions in the room as well, if you guys would like to ask any. So what about the research actually? What about the decision making in terms of numbers? Because I think, Robert, you talked about it a lot in terms of playable ads, seeing how it does. Matej mentioned the UA and you know, improving, doing A/B testing. But do you think with AI as well and the machine learning, all the other technologies, all the skill sets being utilized by games, is it the same, or are there any trends that are popping up now? Is it because mobile gaming, at least in my case over the last 3 years, you guys are super number oriented and it's really great. It's such a big, I would say, skill set to learn going from PC on consoles because we treat numbers differently. Organic is still so much more important unless it's big studios. With indies, it's a non-ending problem. So I'm curious, what research actually means to you? Is it more qualitative, quantitative? Do you actually only base it on clicks, or how does it look like? It's a fascinating world, and could you share some insight, maybe from your work as well, maybe some things that you know, otherwise you would not have been able to learn apart from mobile gaming?
Well, it plays a major part of the research, and for example, but it's also a tricky word at the same time. Meaning that what we've done, there was a tool developed inside as well. It was like a market intelligence tool pretty much, and it was touching upon the audience that we were wanting to focus on. Like basically the idea is we want to create this new game and we want to target this audience. Specifically it was for female 25, 35 plus, and we want to target that particular group because with the rest of the game portfolio that we have, we are skipping that group. It's mostly just trains and like heavy machinery transport. So not really interesting to a lot of women. And that's just data. Like I'm not hating on anyone, it's just data. And so what we've done is we've done the market research before the game was created. Like we've done tons of tests. We tested out the art style, the mechanics, whatever, and the data told us like this is the correct version of how to do it because of the research. And we launched the game. It was performing terrible. It was just terrible. So the game was actually alive for a couple of months, and we had to kill it because all of a sudden it wasn't working. And one of the reasons it was maybe not working is it took us so long for us to develop it that the trains might have changed in the meantime. So so we still do the research and we rely on the data still, but at the same time there's like this pitfall you might encounter as well. So that was my case.
Awesome, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
It's a super broad topic, like in mobile research and data analysis is everywhere, in every aspect. Like recently, in case of playable ads, like we track within ads, we track like some events, we track where we churn users, and I'm not speaking about the actual game, I'm speaking about the ad. So it's on this level, and like now we even test like new game ideas in a form of playable ads, and we already have successful games that were previously successful playable ad. So there's a lot of testing, A/B testing everywhere.
And is there a favorite thing about playable ads that you think is not really known outside, you know, of the specifics of your role per se? Because I think what people mostly think in advertising is PPC, you know, pay-per-click mostly, or just promoting organic content. Like, what is it about making sure like you meet your KPIs with playable ads? That's like
Yeah. We track like, the whole funnel from the beginning to the end, and like for us the most important indicator is the ROI in the end, like day 1, day 7, and if we meet our targets.
Yeah, for me the research is something that is never enough. You can pour tons of money and this situation of trends passing and you're sitting the research that you've been conducting like 2-3 months after. Man, the story of my life. I've had so many cases and it's like you're making focus groups, you're making qualitative research and you're making quantitative one, and it's like, okay, but the window for the release is gone. We need to postpone it to next year maybe. And then it's like, okay, so should we start everything from the beginning? Should be based on the old data? And it is, I'm coming from the agency, so I have this classical marketing background, and for me having the classical focus groups and having classical research is a really nice advantage that you can bring to the industry, to the project, and help it to be more stress tested and kind of mitigate certain risks. At the same time, gaming in general is, as a digital industry, has had so many measurements that the amount of data is very often overwhelming. And like on one of the previous panels, someone told that data is a luxury, and I feel a bit different, that data is commodity. Like there is so many data that you just need to, you can extend your data analytic team into infinity, and there will be someone who will be able to take a look on certain curves and run a study and find out that you can optimize something. So you need to understand what actually matters for you, and we're in the industry where it's much more important to understand what is the core that you need to hold and what are the KPIs that you need to monitor, instead of like, let's try to collect as many data as possible. We haven't. Therefore, I feel that research is very often overlooked but can be helpful, because this helps you to identify those parameters that you later on need to check actually with the product performance. So kind of this connection between the business KPIs, marketing KPIs, and data points that you have in the product and in your funnel is this kind of marketing art for me on a more strategic level than just launching campaigns.
Love it. I think sometimes it gets pushed to the last moment, and some of the insights that could have been uncovered at the start and feed into marketing, feed into all the strategy that are lost along the way, because they're treated as a luxury indeed. I think we can wrap up, to be honest, because we have around 12 minutes left with sharing the epic wins, actually sharing the highlights of your projects. Whatever you are able to share with us is something that has made you so proud as marketers, and made you motivated as well to keep on doing, because as said, all of you have lots of experience and some very recognizable titles under your belts. And what does it constitute for you to have an epic win? What has been the highlight for you so far? And whether you have any lessons learned from that as well that you could share, any advice?
Oh, for me, like anytime I see like an experiment that's actually performing better, that's like an epic one, because we've been experimenting so much. It's like a rare situation for us. If I do like 100 experiments, maybe 2 of them are actually successful. Usually it's like undecisive or sometimes even bad. So whenever I see this, I know like I have a whole new field of possibilities where I can go. I can just analyze the picture or the screenshot, whatever, and try to focus, like, let's maybe play with this a bit and actually find the root of the success. So every time this happens, it's like I get super excited because finally, So they're like every day, pretty much.
Love it.
It's a fun job.
Yeah.
You need a hard man.
Yeah. It's a lot of frustration as well.
Yeah, like similarly, we are in my team. We are in a hunt for so-called gold playable ads that will give us performance, like I described in case of the darts club game. And whenever it happens, it's a huge dopamine shot for us that yes, we were able to improve the retention, KPIs, and like we see actual growth in the company. So yeah, that's what I like the most about my job.
So,
For me, a bit differently. I feel like I'm crushing under the pressure of ambition. I'm like, epic? Is there anything epic in what I've done in the last couple of years? But I think the ones that were, let's say, surprising, it was epic because it wasn't expected. So when we've had these, basically a relaunch with the launch of Asphalt Legends Unite, so we kind of dropped the number in the title, we showcased that this Asphalt sticks with us in this form, there will be Asphalt 10, Asphalt 11, etc., etc. Big moment in the game development and all this cross-platform stuff that I was mentioning. So my CMO told me, like, hey man, shouldn't we have a face that we will associate with the game? And I'm like, oh yeah, we can. This is nice having an ambassador. I've been working with ambassadors before, working for Wargaming. We've had Arnold Schwarzenegger as ambassador for World of Tanks, and that worked quite nicely. It's like, yeah, this sounds like a nice idea. Let's explore this field. And it was epic in terms of organization, because internal stakeholders, especially related to the product, they were like, oh, we need to have Messi. Okay, guys, maybe we need to adjust certain expectations. Like, it will be a regional celebrity. And they were like, we've tested a couple just to give a scale of the budget. We reached out to Post Malone, we reached out to Fred again, and we came back to them and they're like, yeah, that's interesting, but shouldn't we reach higher? Like, hey guys, don't you see the numbers? Like, this is way out of our budget. Let's try to calm down. And then we found out, marketing is all about storytelling and stories, and we found really nice story. We found Frankie Muniz, which is Malcolm in the Middle guy. So he was a kid actor starring in one of very famous series. And then he dropped the industry and he switched to NASCAR racing. And it was a nice story for us. Like, it felt, because the racing games are all about everyone can be a racer. You don't need to have an expensive car, you just need to have a phone, you're downloading it, and you're driving Lambo. So why don't we take a guy who made it, who decided that he wants to be a racer and to become a racer, and make him our face? So apparently it was much cheaper than Post Malone. So in terms of ROI and how the audience perceived it, it was one of the epic wins. How cool was to see the same reaction from the audience that we've had. That was like, huh. Like, when you have this small sign of insight on people's faces, like, this was an epic win for me, because it wasn't something so anticipated that it would work so well.
That's an amazing example. I can't believe you say you don't have any epic wins under your belt. I think I saw an article on this campaign as well, Frankie Muniz as well, so great to hear that, really great. And from my side, actually one of the successes I saw that made the switch to games really easier for me, because I came from corporate marketing. I did B2C marketing, and now I'm back in corporate for a day job, unfortunately, and just doing consulting on the side. It was my social media campaign for Frostbank being mentioned in press, and just seeing the hashtag that I did, Snowblood Oil, because it was just a review that we were doing, we didn't want the audience to know whether it's this World Marine sequel, Frostbank sequel, or any other game. And just seeing it mentioned and just seeing it being like, oh, what is this cryptid message? And I'm like, oh my god, did they just do it? And just having the screenshots of that. And also community. For me, that was really, really epic, when getting community to trust me and tagging me in posts on Reddit, for example, and just being, yeah, the moderator is here. You can tag her and she's going to showcase things on socials and just post about it. And not getting, into quarrels with people, because that's what the team was really wording against, the social media manager and the community manager, and that can be very tiresome for people. And just having that introduction, I think, to the industry, I think that's one of the best memories I'll always have. And I think now is the time, because we have 5 minutes left for the next speaker. Thank you guys a lot for this discussion. I'd like to open the floor in case the audience has any questions, and I hope you're open to them. So, anybody? Yep.
What is your opinion on using creatives for testing features that are planned but not developed? Because obviously the downside is that the user gets in the game and sees nothing. but it can be used to kind of test the interest for various type of features. So I'm never sure whether to use it or not. We've tried it and it didn't go so well since the creatives performed very well. And it took us like 2 months to develop the feature and then they performed badly. I don't know why, but the market changed.
Yeah, thank you for the question. We are doing it, actually. We are testing out different features and are looking for we know what angles we want to test in advance and we put it into the creative. Same case for us. When it was a success within the ad, we always try to implement it into the game to make sure there's like some sort of transparent user flow. But yeah, to answer your question in short, yes, we are doing it, experiencing pretty much the same situation. Is there a solution to it? I don't know. I think maybe Victor and more, I guess. That's what he'll be doing in short. Yeah, it's a tricky part.
Yeah.
Anybody wants to add anything else?
Yeah, for us it's similar. Like I said, we already have games implemented just because we seen successful mechanic in a playable ad, for example. In some cases it worked really well, in some not. You just need to try.
Right.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think for like PCs that sometimes you can get the sentiment of people. I think Discord is very useful for getting feedback on things that are exciting to developers, but not necessarily for players. And if you get roasted for them, you immediately know not to pull the resources there. I think it's about trying, right? And just okay, it doesn't perform well, but then you're not wasting time developing it and then being down with the financing and other features that you should have implemented instead of it. But really good question, thank you. Any more?
Yeah, I've got a bit of a question. So I think it's fairly safe to say, and I think this goes back well before games, but adverts are always kind of a little bit villainized in a way. And no one really likes adverts that much, but they're kind of necessary, otherwise you don't know what exists, right? But I'm starting to see with things like playable ads and that sort of stuff, is there a possibility or a future or upcoming technology where adverts add to the gaming experience and actually are something that, is something that people are a lot more hyped about? Oh yeah, I want to look at the ads of this thing because this is actually going to be, more interesting or more actually enhance the gameplay experience. Do we see that happening, or is it always going to be this kind of, you have the gaming experience and then ads are kind of latched onto the side of it to keep it alive? I'm wondering, you have any ideas?
Yeah, I think that right now the basic mechanism I would say would be true rewarding ads. So you can win something within the playable ad, and then you can unlock it in the actual game. So this is something we tried. It performed pretty well. So yeah, I think there is a trend in this direction, and during the last 2 years, we see that in our case, ads are getting more and more authentic. So I think that's good. But yeah, we are still experimenting with many different approaches.
So for us, we mostly focus on the rewarded videos because those work the best. And there was somebody was mentioning on some other conference, we should always double down on the positive emotion and then display the ad. But there might be a case where let's say you would implement a playable ad and make it blend a mini game within the game. There might be something. I've not seen that happening though, but that might be an idea.
Yeah, I think in PC sometimes there have been very big campaigns implemented that, for example, you got a bit of the backstory of the characters that you would otherwise not learn from the game itself. And I think it's always exciting, but the best examples with BioShock, I think it was the second one, when they were, for example, planting, I think bottles with messaging in them, just for the press people instead, for example, for gamers. It's been in 2000s, it hasn't been done for a while now. And I think it's a shame because then, as you said, it's super hard to get to know some games, unless it's an influencer that booms, unless it's a super big campaign of level Cyberpunk or I don't know, Call of Duty, etc. It's super hard to find games that you'd like to play unless it's an ad. But I think it's narrative games, definitely backstory, definitely maybe some clues to what the story is about, if it's super, anti-mystery, and that's one of the appeals of making sure that people want to engage with the ad, because at the end of the day, as marketers, I think we like doing, things that are fun in our work, and I think the worst is that if you really spend a lot of time on ads, creatives, and they're just getting ad blocked. And I use ad block a lot myself, so it's a bit of a hypocritical thing to say, but yeah. I think just making it worth their while, and for them to want not to skip it, but then you have to really make it worth the while of the consumer, of the player, because at the end of the day, they're not going to want to engage if it's just another 100th ad of the same thing.
Yeah. Man, I wish I would live in the world where people give shit about, general audience give shit about marketing, and I don't think that's, marketing has been there for quite a while, and I don't see this coming. I feel like people taking for granted the good marketing stuff, but they point out when it's done badly, and I don't think that this will ever change. There is a very small audience that actually sees the campaign and they're like, oh, this is nice. Yeah, and you see them here. So I think we need to manage certain expectations. Still in the researches, whether you want your daughter to marry a lawyer or a marketing guy, we are very close. So.
Sorry, that's actually, yes. Okay, thank you very much for today. Thank you for our guests, and thank you for the great questions as well. And hope it was nice for you, the whole panel, as it was for us, hopefully. Thank you.